All right, folks, welcome back to the show. I am Craig Shelton. Excuse me, Craig Shelton from HMW. Go check out the website. That's HoustonMediaWatch.com. Check us out a couple times a day. We are Houston's media watchdogs. Richard Walker, Big Richard Walker, is in studio today. Actually, in front of the cameras today, folks, to talk a little sports. We're going to have a lot of Rockets talk for you today on the show. We will focus on a particular Rocket here in just a bit, Chandler Parsons, and we have some discussions in that regard. Had some interaction in regard to a subject on Chandler Parsons on Facebook. I'll get into some of that with you folks. All right, and I promise you too, we will also definitely touch on some Texans and a little bit of discussion with DeJavian Clowney and what to do with that number one pick, all right? So let's get back to the Rockets talk because Rockets get the big win last night out of the Toyota Center, as everyone knows by now, 112-86. Big win for the Rockets. The Rockets now have won their last 21 games when scoring at least 100 points, which sets the longest such streak in franchise history. The Rockets had a 20-game run from January 29th of 07 through November 9th. The Rockets finished with 48 points last night, Richard, in the paint, and took a 21-11 edge off the break. Very key for this basketball team.
It is.
The Rockets need to win in two areas. They need to win points in the paint, I believe, because if you're winning with points in the paint, that means typically that Dwight Howard is getting touches.
Right.
And we need Dwight Howard to get touches. I think we're beyond where they were earlier in the season, where we couldn't understand why Dwight wasn't being used enough within offense.
Right.
And I think they're kind of finding their own way with that. I don't really see anything miraculous schematically that McHale is doing. I think he's kind of stuck to his guns, and I think the Rockets are just kind of marrying into his belief system. And then he does appear to be capable of kind of allowing guys to do what they do. And I would imagine if you have a long beard, it's easy for him to allow you to do what you do. But it's on James Harden. Look, if this doesn't work, and I mean if Dwight Howard is not successful within the offense and because he'll be fine defensively. But if he's not successful, it's on James Harden.
Right.
It's on James Harden because he dominates the ball. And it's on James Harden too if James Harden isn't consistently playing good defense and not just late in games in the fourth quarter. I think he needs to pick that area up a little bit more consistently early in games. I wanted to point on take a look right now before we get to the Chandler Parsons discussion.
Oh boy.
Because we're going to get to this Chandler Parsons discussion with some of you folks on Facebook, and some of your comments. But okay, here's what the Rockets have coming up, folks. If you don't know, you're going to know now. Next for the Rockets is Portland.
Tomorrow
night. Then they get Oklahoma City on Tuesday night. Then they get Chicago. Then they get Miami, the rematch with Miami. You know Miami.
With a chip on their shoulder.
Will have a chip on their shoulder. And LeBron didn't have a lot of energy that night.
He said his jersey was too tight.
Well, look, I saw the Rockets finish on some plays around LeBron that the Rockets had better won that game.
Right.
Because some of the finishes I saw the Rockets make versus the Heat within what I'm going to call LeBron range of a minimum attempting to block shots, you won't get that often. But let's not make too big a deal about how the Rockets match up with the Heat.
Exactly.
And how they match up with Indiana.
Right.
Because that's a good problem to have. Because if those long series matter, that means we're in the NBA Finals. So we'll cross those bridges when we get to them. Good to play well against those guys, but just keep in mind we need to play good against Portland, OKC. If we want any series games to really matter versus Indiana or the Heat, well, we need to take care of business against these Western Conference teams. Your thought, Richard, obviously a good start. And if you want to go back as far as the first Miami victory and say the tough stretch of games started there,
Right.
definitely off to a good start. Took care of business with Miami, took care of business with Orlando. Now you've taken care of business with Indiana. But Portland has been a problem.
Has been a problem, big time.
Yep.
And kind of speaking to what you were talking about earlier, they're playing great right now, but let's not mistake the fact that there are a couple of things that we're going to be looking forward in the playoffs. They rely a whole lot, from an offensive perspective, on their perimeter game. That's something that's a concern long term, because when it gets into the playoffs and you're against a team like Oklahoma City, or I'm thinking specifically of San Antonio, it doesn't quite work in the playoffs.
Do you think San Antonio is still a troublesome matchup for the
Oh,
Rockets?
absolutely.
See, I don't.
Don't let the 0-3 fool you.
No, that's not my point.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that 0-3 is necessarily fooling us.
Right.
San Antonio may be a better basketball team than the Rockets. Maybe. That's not a no-brainer, okay? But we both know that the NBA is about matchups. I don't know that the Rockets is an ideal matchup for San Antonio. And that may be the difference in that regard. I don't know that.
I don't see them beating San Antonio based on what I've seen, in a 7-game series.
Based on what?
Based on their reliance on perimeter game. San Antonio is going to slow the pace down of the game. They're going to choke the life out of the Rockets' transition game, which they rely on.
Well, did they choke the life out of OKC when they ran them off the floor?
No. Well, I'm talking about the San Antonio playoff team. Like, I don't know, for some reason they seem to adapt in that playoff environment. They seem to. I see a lot more. They tend to press a lot more. They cut you off at half court. They force you to slow your game down.
Yeah, but has the NBA profile changed in regard to playoff basketball? Hadn't the NBA always been about matchups? And unless you're just, unless the margin of talent on your teams are at a exponential level from your competition, unless you're the Showtime Lakers or the one of those Bulls team or the Boston teams where you were just so much better than everyone, even teams that weren't ideal matchups for you, you just ran through. But for the most part, the NBA, you look at the Heat last year, Indiana's just a bad matchup for the Heat because of the size inside. The Heat found a way to beat them, but it
takes experience.
Bad matchup for them. I just don't know, and I'm not saying the Rockets would beat San Antonio in a 7-game series. I just wanted to ask you the question. I just don't know that the San Antonio is the best matchup, that the Rockets are the best matchup for San Antonio, no more than I think the Clippers are a good matchup for the Rockets. Because they do a lot of what the Rockets do, but I just think Chris Paul is the difference.
The difference maker, yeah.
In that situation, because outside of LeBron James, when it's all said and done, who would be the, if you couldn't draft, if we put everybody in the NBA in a draft pool, and you give me the first pick and I take LeBron, who you taking next?
Chris Paul's probably going to be second off the board.
Kevin Durant.
Or Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, it's going to be likely Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, we were talking about a top 3, top 5 guy at minimum. So I just
he's the most creative player in the league.
And he's the difference. If you take Chris Paul and put him on the Rockets, and you put Patrick Beverley on the Clippers, the Rockets are a better basketball
team
than the Clippers. And I just think, but so what one player with San Antonio do you say, well, if you take that guy, if you put Patrick Beverley with San Antonio and Tony Parker with Houston, does the dynamic change that much?
Definitely.
For who?
I think Tony Parker's he's underrated. He doesn't seem to get the type of kudos that he should. I mean, let's not forget what this guy's done in the past. Let's not forget what he's still capable of doing. He is the San Antonio Spurs. No disrespect to Tim Duncan, but
I think San Antonio and Houston are closer, or more of a toss-up.
Yeah,
than I would.
I think the difference is number one, the experience, and of course, having a genius like Popovich at your coach, is going to help also. And these guys, they just
genius label on Pop. We can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
There are a lot of good players that Genius was coaching over there, though. But I don't know if he's a genius, but he's still one of the better.
He's
NBA
the best coach in the
all
league
time.
right now, no doubt.
So if we think about things in context, and I'm going back to the Rockets, folks, because now I want to drift into a little conversation about
Uh-oh.
Chandler Parsons.
I see a highlight reel coming here.
No, well, hey, listen, folks, I love me some Chandler Parsons. I do. It's nothing like 6'9", probably what, close to 6'10".
Long kid.
Long
Very long.
kid.
Yeah.
Hey, look, loved him from Florida. He's a winner. He's got a humble approach to the game. He's a team player. I love everything about Chandler Parsons. I love the price tag associated with him.
For now, yeah.
And all of that. But I don't want, and this is not about fans initially. It wasn't about fans with me. It was all about the Rockets broadcast and how they go overboard to sell us on how great Chandler Parsons is. Now, you got a lot of good players out there running up and down that court with the Rockets.
Yes.
And we know Chandler's pretty darn good. Chandler has improved every year that he's been in the league. In every major category, statistically, here in his third season, Chandler Parsons has gotten better every season.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Scoring, rebounding, assists. He's gotten better.
Doesn't
3-point
turn the ball
percentage.
over as much. Better defender.
He's a very good player. Chandler Parsons is not great yet.
Right.
Chandler Parsons in 2 years may be a great NBA player.
Maybe.
He may be.
Right.
He's not great right now.
Right.
Well, there are some people that wouldn't agree with me. All right? We will get ready to go to a break here in a second. When we come back from this break, I'm going to share with you a couple posts that I put out there on Facebook in regard to the situation with Chandler Parsons.
Wow.
And I'm going to share with you some of the feedback, some of the comments that came back from some of the shebangs.
The Parsonites?
The Parsonites?
Parsonites.
I like shebangs.
Yeah, shebangs.
The shebangs sound like something your grandmama used to do to your sister hair. Yeah, bring that lard, so I can put some lard in your hair and
It's
fix your
shebanging.
shebangs. But no, we got to talk a little bit about this, folks. Houston drives me crazy with the home love. He's not Michael Jordan, folks. He's Chandler Bangs. We'll be right back.